Let's rock. So today, guys, we are privileged to have Yash from Momentum Ventures. He's the co-founder and CEO. I've come across Yash. I think I came across Momentum about a year or two ago, and I followed a little bit about the journey. And it was only until one of my colleagues in my network mentioned the level of work that you guys
Yeah.
do. Is why I was really interested in having you guys on board. So, look, I always lead with a quick introduction of who you are, what do you do, and why you do it. But before you start that, one question I've found to be really important is anybody who's joining this podcast right now who's never watched the Connect podcast, doesn't really understand kind of the theme. Give in 1 minute or 2 minutes, why should people stay on for the next hour to hear from you what you're about to speak on?
That's a great question, right? So a couple of things. I'm a mechanical engineer who then worked as an investment banker and then started a tech agency who ended up building a SaaS product, and now we run Momentum. So the journey has been very different than I mean, it's not conventional, and there have been a lot of learnings during that journey. Essentially, jumping from one thing to the other, not fully understanding what the outcomes could be. We'll be talking a little bit about that. But more importantly, I think the thing that I'm doing now with Momentum is essentially of all the mistakes that I've made over the last decade and a half of my professional work experience. I'm trying to avoid at Momentum, and we can talk about those mistakes as well and what we are doing at Momentum. So I think in if I were to talk about like in a minute or less, why should you stick around for another 59 minutes? I'd say it's essentially because you want to know about the mistakes that I made that you should avoid as well.
Jam-packed intel from those who walk the walk and talk
Yeah.
the talk. So let's lead right into it then. So, Yash, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
So I am currently co-founder and chief executive at Momentum 91, also called as Momentum Ventures. We do a couple of things. We essentially work with early stage SaaS companies and help them build digital products that sell themselves. Right. So working on from website to everything that follows. So their product design, how do features come together, onboarding, activation, accelerating time to value, pricing experiments, upgrade, downgrade journeys, all of that from UI UX to backend, front end development, DevOps, scaling, QA, all of those things put together. That's what we do at Momentum. I've been all of my professional work experience. I've been essentially building products apart from the time that I was banking. So we've built about 23 odd
Mm.
products up until now. One of them was for ourselves called Clientjoy, which was a CRM for freelancers and agencies. We were serving about 13,000 odd customers from 90 odd countries with that product. Saw about 50 to $1 million annual run rate journeys over the past decade or so. Saw other companies or other products not working out as well, and sort of analyzed and understood a little about what didn't work, why that didn't work. In some cases, it was the finances. Some cases, it was the founding team. Certain cases, the market was not big enough, and so on and so forth. The reason why Momentum 91 exists is because we want to help early stage founders um, uh, basically figure out the quickest way to go to market and quickest way to get to $1 million in annual run rate, right? So we are the 0 to 1 sort of group of people who come together, who guide you or help you realize the vision that you set out to achieve. And the reason why I do that is because it's fun. That's the time when things are most chaotic. That's the time when things are most hazy and unclear. And and any amount of experience is only meaningful when you have the ability to navigate a ship when you cannot see things clearly.
Look, I completely agree with you, and there's a lot to unpack with that. But just as you mentioned, that 0 to 1 million, I've come to find that it's also my sweet spot and my biggest
Mhm.
joy. And I now recall Clientjoy. I had gone through 3 years of building my agency. We actually ran it to $1 million in revenue in year two and a
Mhm.
half, three, just between that 2.5 to 3 year mark. All the problems in the world,
Yeah,
made all the mistakes as an early stage
yeah,
founder, but it allowed me to kind of really see the picture of the
yeah,
future and see which mistakes to avoid and see what to capitalize on. And that's what brought me to actually
yeah,
Clientjoy, because I was looking at CRMs, and then the first keyword that I came up with was CRMs for
yeah,
agencies. And Clientjoy was that, not to be promoting it, but it was that all in one
yeah,
solution that has literally everything from pipeline
yeah,
generation to deal management to contract
yeah,
management to invoice
yeah,
management. And when I saw that and then came across your profile, I think that was when the first time I
yeah,
actually reached out to you and asked you about joining the
yeah,
podcast. But moving on from that, that 0 to 1 million, I've worked with a lot of companies that are funded. I've worked with established brands, enterprise companies, and yes, you have some that are, they've progressed more in their journey, they're more developed, but the excitement does come in these first stages of
yeah,
growth, and it's exactly what I'm doing at Mega. So one question I'm always interested in hearing from those that have more experience than myself is, what are the biggest problems? And if you're a founder or CEO and this is you, listen carefully, but what are the biggest problems you see with early stage founders and their vision on how they go about entering the world of business? For even if when it's their second or third
yeah,
time, they still seem to make a ton of
yeah.
mistakes. So what's the biggest problem you've seen with early stage
So the
founders?
first, like a couple of challenges, but one of the very frequent ones that I've observed is that the founder would be, the group of founders would be too focused on building the solution to the problem that they are trying to solve, and not really thinking enough about the distribution that they will need, right? And so a good way to think about a product today, or a digital product at least today, is that it is a commodity, right? If you have capital, it can be built. um, Distribution
Mm-hmm.
is extremely difficult, right? How do you make sure that it gets to the right people? How do you make sure that it's packaged correctly? How do you make sure it's positioned correctly? And how do you make sure that you have a predictable inflow of leads or prospects who are coming to the asset or the product that you're building? And founders, early stage founders especially, do not spend enough time into building those channels or funnels. At this point of time, they would try and figure out, what additional feature do we need. They'll talk to n number of prospects, n number of leads, and figure out what are the features that are required within the product. What UX changes should they do? Is this prototype good enough or not? But they will not like build an asset or build a community or build anything that has, 1000 unique website visitors, or like 50 people joining that particular community every week or something like that, right? Which is like, if you are able to
Mm-hmm.
build an asset or a destination where you have predictable number of people, new people who are joining in every week or every month, who are your ideal customers, that takes significant amount of effort, that requires significant amount of experimentation, and a lot of failing, a lot of trying new approaches, trying new things, learning, and so on and so forth. And that's something that I would say that most founders are not able to put that together as to what are the efforts that we will put in this direction. They directly start building the software, building the product. And a good way to think about it is that any piece of software that you've written, like any piece of code that you write, is sunk cost, right? And so you're never going to get that back. And so every dollar that you're investing into writing software without having any customers for it, is basically just gone. It used to be with you, and now it's just gone, right? It must have gone to an it could have gone into like a freelancer or a coder or an agency or your team members or whatever it is, but it just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist now. So the good, like a better way to think about it is investing your time and energy into figuring out how can you get your ICP into a particular destination or an asset that you own. And that could be your Instagram page, or your YouTube channel, or a community that you create on Slack, or LinkedIn, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's the biggest mistake that I would say. There are a couple of others, but this would be at the top of my list.
So one problem that I think I've seen is a very common problem in the agency space is the idea, or the, let's just say, the focus on pipeline
Hmm.
generation. Now, I believe, or how to approach
Yeah,
pipeline generation. So I believe a fluid, robust, full
yeah,
pipeline from day one and consistently growing that pipeline
Yeah.
day in and day out, month in and month out is of the utmost
Yeah.
importance when building a business, because you need your lifeline and you need that breathing space, and cash flow provides that. But the way to go about generating pipeline when you're a new business, you're very tight on resources, you're tight on
Yeah.
budget. Most companies that I've worked with over the past half of a decade, all they care about is appointment setting and meetings,
Hmm.
meeting
Yeah.
generation. Then there's some that will focus on, let's just say, 65% on meeting generation and then 35% on development of the
Yeah.
product. Some will spend 75% of their budget on development of the product, coding, hire 15, 20 developers, and have one
Yeah.
person building
Yeah.
pipeline. So what do you think is like the most valid, sensible split of time into certain resources when pipeline generation is the core focus at the
Mhm.
beginning? You're trying to build revenue so you can sustain your
Yeah.
business and survive and live and grow. What do you think then in your mind is that healthy
Mhm.
split across finance, operations, marketing, sales? What comes to mind when you hear that question?
So let's take a hypothetical scenario where we're talking about the journey of an organization going from let's say $0 to let's say $50,000 in MRR in a year, right? And in that
Yeah.
scenario, the split will change over a period of time, and it will move away a little bit from pipeline generation. So at the beginning, you typically want to have as much as possible that's invested into pipeline generation. So like absolutely basic MVP, your conversion rates will be extremely low, and that's okay. So you're pitching to
Mm-hmm.
10 people, you're able to convert only one or two, and that's fine. But you're still focused on building and generating pipeline at the beginning, and then over a period of time, as and when your product matures a little bit, the first goal of generating revenue should be to cover your marketing and sales costs. Once that is done, then you can shift a little more, so you can shift and invest a little more into building the product, so you can hire a couple more engineers, UI UX designers and stuff like that. And then the next goal should be for you to cover your costs of for the product, and then you shift a little more, and then your goal is to cover all of the overheads, which could be your non-billables or like decision makers and stuff like that. And then when you hit like $50,000 at that point of time, it could be pretty much anything. So at that point of time, if you're a venture funded startup, then you typically just want to invest as much as possible into building your pipeline. If you're bootstrapped, and if you
Mm-hmm.
want to take a route that's much more slow and much more relaxed, and much more organized, then you can have sort of a half and half split or something like that. But that's sort of how I would say. So I'd say that you might want to start at 80/20. So like 20 towards building the product, 80 towards pipeline at the beginning. Absolutely, like extremely poor conversion rates, and that's okay. um, and then slowly and slowly it'll move towards 50/50, almost towards the end of the year, once you hit and you're able to cover the cost of a very small engineering team, product design team, as well as the sales and marketing. That's sort of how I would go about
Awesome. And when pipeline generation is at the forefront of focus, what do you see as the biggest problems in today's market with generating pipeline then? You've got cold
yeah.
calling, you've got cold emailing, you've got companies, agencies that do all kinds of clay, hyper
Yeah.
personalized messaging. And now you've got LinkedIn gurus who want to social sell. You've got content syndication. You've got
Yeah.
conferences, networking, virtual sessions, webinars, roundtables. You've got this absolute incredibly wide assortment of products, services,
Yeah.
avenues, channels to
Yeah.
explore. And look, again, the easiest one to identify is
Mhm.
email. For those that are very
Yeah.
skilled, you can have the cold calling. For the lazy ones, you can say go on LinkedIn and scroll through LinkedIn endlessly until you think you see an opportunity.
Yeah.
But for yourself, what do you see as sitting 30,000 foot view? You're looking at a bunch of your clients who are trying to build pipeline? What are the biggest problems or most common problems that they're running into in 2024?
So I'd say that the biggest problem is SEO, and bear with me. So I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because what happens is that if I'm a new founder, if I'm a first time founder, and if I search right how to do cold emails, I will some SEO content writer, some person who's been optimizing their blog for most visitors, has written an article that I will read, and it will give me the impression that if I use 1, 2, and 5 tools, I'll be able to figure out my outbound outreach, right? And so that's the biggest challenge, right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to
Mm,
imagine. So like and this is a really big challenge, and so imagine that imagine that you're searching imagine that you are an individual who's just searching how to cure cancer, and some SEO
mhm.
content writer has written an article that says, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You read that, it's not going to cure cancer, but you think that now you know how to cure cancer. And so what this
Yeah,
does is that it makes you feel like if you just have the tools, you'll be able to fix it. But if you have a knife and a cooker and a jar and whatever is required, you doesn't make you a good cook. It doesn't, right? So all of these tools and platforms that you
it's
have,
very true.
all of these tools and platforms are just tools that you need to know how to use. And so and SEO gives you an impression that I already know how to use, and so that's why they wouldn't go to they wouldn't try to learn more. They wouldn't go to the in certain cases they might not even approach an agency. In certain cases they might not have a mentor or have a person who's done this at scale talk to them, or even know what are the right questions to ask, right? So I would say that in this age of tools, the biggest challenge is people thinking they already know how to do it and that the tools will help them. And the tools will, but they need to know how to do it, and that comes after some amount of experimentation.
Hmm.
The other piece that I would say is in certain cases, people don't have, like, they know, like, they're good engineers and they're good product people, but they don't know what exactly have they built, right? So they would not be able to communicate the value or the benefits of the product that they've built, and that's why you'll see websites over websites just talking about the features and the collection of features that they have. They'll not talk about whether they are
Hmm.
saving time, saving money, or helping you make more money. They'll not talk about the importance or the urgency, or the frequency of the problem that they are trying to solve. They'll not talk about how are they better or faster or cheaper or whatever the case may be, right? So they are not able to, like, properly position themselves well enough to be able to get the attention. And like, I've seen LinkedIn posts and I've seen YouTube videos where they talk about cold emailing and cold calling is dead. It's not, right? It's absolutely not. I would, like, if you do it well, you will be able to sell, right? And the way to get there, like, the way to get better
Yeah.
at it is just to do it badly, right? So just do a bad cold call and don't give up, right? And then do a little better and then do a little better, and
Hmm.
it's like math, right? So nobody knows math at birth, but they just become a little better at it over a period of time, and it's just something that you practice, right? It's not, no one knows cold
Yeah.
calling. Everybody is just getting better at it all the time, right? And
Yeah.
so same with cold
Yep. Yep. Yep.
emailing, and same with everything. So that's these are the couple of thoughts that I have. I'd also sort of touch a little bit um, upon exploring the world of AI and the things that it is doing in terms of helping you and becoming a sales enablement of sorts, right? And that we can talk about later. But these are sort of some thoughts in and around sales, or building pipeline and outreach.
Wow, I agree with you fully, and I think it is even what was it? We started our pipeline generation efforts for Mega. What was it back just a couple of months ago? And even for me, like, I've been cold calling for over a
Mhm.
decade. I'm very confident I'm one of the best that can do it. And entering a new market. So you typically I'd be speaking to marketing directors, CEOs of technology companies. And this occasion, we're focusing on a different market. And I got on the phone, and the first day, even for me, even as a professional, I would call myself a professional cold caller. I ran up against a few
Yeah.
barriers and a few hurdles. But after week two, the first kind of breakthrough was 3 meetings in one
Yeah.
day in like 45
Okay.
minutes. And again, it was just the simple fact of that consistency and getting used to the
Yeah.
conversation with so CEOs of debt recovery companies, they have similar problems. And just to be able to, again, those first 2 weeks of calling them, hey, we solve problems like this. Are you experiencing problems like this? Are conversations like this
Yeah.
happening in the boardroom at your kind of discussions with your executive team? And as those yeses became more
Yeah.
consistent and you heard the problems are this and this, then when those future objections came in or when those conversations came up in week two and week three, it was just like natural instinct to say, yes, I was speaking with Rudy last week and Rudy was telling me that he's seeing a
Yeah.
60% downtime in wasted efficiency and we can really replace that if we look at AI. And those little switches based on small snippets of
Yeah.
conversations make all the difference in the ability. But again, I think it's that figuring out how to basically extract certain points within a conversation and then utilize and
Yes.
leverage those points in those discussions to really convert. Oh,
Yeah. Patient.
lost you for a second. I'll
Ah.
wait till you get back on.
No, I'm here.
I think you're on mute if you can
Oh,
hear
I
me.
am. Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I just can't see you. You might have to just click your
Okay, it was working fine for
video.
me. Like everything was smooth for like I was able to hear and see you as well.
Yeah, same for me. I think it's just a small
Okay.
glitch. So we'll see. So is your camera? Can you see
Yeah, I
me?
can see you and I can see myself. Should I just refresh the page?
Yeah. See if you can refresh the
Yeah.
page because I can't see you
Oh, okay.
right
Just give
now.
me one.
Yes, I can. I can. Perfect. So we'll just crack right back into it. So what I was saying is those points of discussion that happen through those conversations, and then being able to effectively leverage those pain
Yeah.
points into a discussion, and then have the ability to qualify and convert
Yeah.
that into a meeting. Again, that only happens from doing the actual job
Yeah.
itself, which I think is again the most important thing. So, um, one thing that I think is interesting in this podcast and what I do is we've kind of shown a light on some of the things you've done, your experience, where it lies, some of the things you're doing with current companies, a little bit about the problems you're looking to
Hmm.
solve or are solving or have identified. But you touched on the journey a little bit of what and
Yeah.
why. But was the spark of Yash, where that pivotal point in your life where something clicked or you had that light bulb
Hmm.
moment. A lot of people that I've speak to or a lot of people that I have conversations with, they want to figure out how should I go about this or what should I be
Yeah.
doing in life or I don't know what I want to do. And I approached it in a way where I jump into a car, into a vehicle of some
Hmm.
sort that gets me to the next
Yeah.
place of my life or the next phase of growth in my life. No matter what it is, it doesn't have to always be something you enjoy. That vehicle ended up being
Hmm.
sales, demand generation sales to oil and gas
Yeah.
companies in publishing, in the publishing
Mm.
space, media publishing space. But for you, was it a younger age in your
Hmm.
teens, your 20s, your 30s, where that light bulb moment happened and you were like, I can't work for somebody
Hmm.
anymore. I have to do this myself. I need my independence. Walk me through that kind of thought process or that light bulb moment and how it happened.
So I'd say that right around the time when I was 21, I sort of um, uh, I sort of compartmentalized or created partitions of my career, right? So the idea was that I'm going to work for 30 more years. When I was 21, I'm going to work for 30 more years. The first decade, I want to invest into learning as many things as possible, trying my hands at as many different things as possible, and get exposure, meet interesting people, work on difficult problems, meet, just Just go out there, don't care about whether you're getting paid or not. If it happens, it happens, and it's great. But as long as you're not going
Mm-hmm.
hungry, it's okay. But just learn, right? The second decade, which is the decade that I'm in right now, is this decade is about making money, right? Not value, not nothing like that, right? So no buzzwords, just making money for myself and my family, individually. And then the third decade
Mm-hmm.
is primarily for the money that I make in this decade to make more money, right? And so at that time, like, create value, create worth, share whatever I've learned with other people, and so on and so forth. So this was the idea when I was 21, right? Okay, that I just divide 30 more years that I have into three parts. First decade learning, second decade using that learning to make money, and then the third one, once I've made some amount of money, put money to work, and then I'll sort of try and help other people as much as possible. Right? So that's the idea that I started with, and by that time I was already almost done with my mechanical engineering. I realized that as a person who's done mechanical, I'm not going to be able to. I mean, there's not a lot new things happening in mechanical engineering. So there's not a lot of learning
Mm-hmm.
to do over here. Where else can I do that? It seemed like at the time it seemed like finance and banking is new. A lot of new age fintech and tech companies were coming up over here in India, which is where I'm based. And so I started up a job as an investment banker. It paid me well, and so that was good as well. And I got to learn a lot of new things, met a lot of interesting people. I understood how equity investments happened. I understood how consortiums are built. I understood a little bit of those things. I understood how balance sheets are read, how companies are kept compliant, uh, how to sort of identify issues from a P&L statement, and stuff like that. And then I met a girl, who was into computer science, and she already had a job, but she didn't want to do that. So she wanted to start a company, and she convinced me that, by saying that she's an introvert, she doesn't know how to talk to people. You seem like a guy who's not ashamed of anything. Would you be open to selling, website development solutions, right? So this is way back in 2013, 2014, which is when responsive websites were a big thing, right? So this the fact that your website opened on the phone was really cool. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, I have my weekends available, I can try to do that. So started doing that. um, got good response. Got a lot of, like, created a lot of websites for bands and for stand-up comedians and stuff like that, like personal branding and things like that. Got a lot of referrals, and then left the job, started doing this full time, because this was fun, right? I was over here also, I was
Mm-hmm.
learning new things, and then this was my own thing, right? So this is basically me and her, Anupama, who's also now my wife. uh, but this is me and Anupama, sort of both of us against the world. I'm trying to sell, she's building it up, and then we are delivering, and we are facing challenges. We have cash flow crunches. She's working like 14 hours a day. I am trying to sell as much as possible. And then we fall in love. We get married a couple of years later as well. But then, from the business standpoint, also realize that, okay, website development is good, but we're not getting recurring projects, right? How can we increase the average order value or average contract value? Can we do web and mobile application development? And so then we started doing that. And then we realized, okay, we can do web and mobile application development, but Anupama is the only person who's doing it, and that's not enough. Can we hire more people? So started recruitment, team building, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized, okay, as a service company, we are limited not by the size of our market, but we are limited by the amount of concurrent projects that we can deliver. So why are we building anything and everything? Why not just build SaaS, right? And that way it'll help me sell better. That way we'll have ready modules that we can implement faster. It'll help us grow the top line and better our bottom line as well. So then we started just doing SaaS products. Then we started just doing enterprise SaaS products. And then we built 22 SaaS products for enterprises, grew the company to about 55 people. And then we had an idea, that, hey, we've now built a lot of SaaS products. We've seen a lot of journeys go from zero to $1 million. At that time, we'd seen about three journeys, zero to a million, but only as product partners, right? As a service company. So we were essentially doing the UI, UX, product,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those things.
Now, so
Yeah.
we were at the part just before I got lost my connection where
Huh?
you build SaaS products, then you build enterprise products, and then
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and so we built about 22 SaaS products by that point of time. We were a 55 people team. And then we realized, hey, we've seen a couple of $0 to $1 million journeys as product partners, as people who are doing UI, UX, and engineering, full stack front end, all of those things for our clients. Why don't we build a product ourselves, right? So why don't we put a team of 4, 5 people together within our organization, and we identify a problem, and then we try and solve that, right? And so the idea was that we've been an agency. By that time, we'd been an agency for half a decade. So we understood the agency space. We had a lot of agency friends as
Mm-hmm.
well. And the fact that we built about 22 SaaS products, so it was going to be fairly easy for us to build a product. The only question was, how do we distribute that, right? So we knew that we had to build a system of record. So something that once a customer comes in cannot go out of. So they would want to use it consistently and continuously for the time that their company is around. And that's why Clientjoy, which was a CRM for agencies and freelancers. So we understood the pain point really well. We lived that life. We lived the life of our customer, and that's when we started building Clientjoy. And then a series of challenges, a series of working on problems that we never faced before. So the thing that's different between running and building an agency and building a product is that when you are building an agency, you will up until you are like a 200 people team, you will face the same problems just at different scale, right? So you'll face, so your clients are not paying on time, you don't have enough internal processes, you have cash flow challenges, you're not pricing high enough, you don't have a predictable pipeline. All of these challenges that an agency face are the same challenges that you will face, just at a different scale, going from 2 people agency to a 200 people agency. The thing about building a product, though, is that the nature of the problem changes, right? Um, so as an example, when you start to build a product, what you're trying to do is you're trying to build an MVP that first 10 customers will pay for it. Then the problem definition changes. It changes to you trying to identify a product market fit as to what cohort of the market likes my product the most. Then the problem definition changes, and you have to arrive at what is the right pricing for this product. Then it changes to where you have to solve, how do I reduce my customer acquisition cost? How do I increase my retention? How do I make sure that people who are using the product get incremental value from the product? And this is just from the product standpoint. Even the team challenges, all of these are different and they evolve. So that was a painful realization that we had once we started building the product. That the challenges that I was solving as a 20 people agency, I was solving the same problems at 50 people agency. But with a product, I have to learn, right? My effort is not enough. I have to learn
Yep.
each and every stage. And so that was an interesting journey with that as well, which we exited earlier this year. So January of 2024, we got acquired. So Clientjoy got acquired by a US based company. So it's been about 4 years, 13,000 customers, 90 countries. Used to engage
Wow.
with about 1.8 million leads, 78,000 clients being managed, $25 million being collected on the platform. Um, and then so now we have Momentum 91. So that's sort of been the journey.
Wow, that's incredible. Are you allowed to share how much you exited got for Clientjoy?
Unfortunately, no, but it's enough. It's
Ballpark figure,
better than what
ballpark
I
figure,
expected.
ballpark
It's
figure
better
for
than
those
what
that
I
are interested.
expected. I'll be able to buy a house and not worry about my kids' education. I can say
Wow, that's incredible. So,
that.
for those that are agency owners right now and they are tired of those problems that
Yeah. Hmm.
increase, change, decrease, and then increase again with those scaled efforts,
Hmm.
what would you say is more difficult, building product or building an agency?
Building a product for sure. Building a
Really?
product and scaling that. Yeah, that's I would, having done both of them, I would I mean, I know for a fact that building a product is significantly more difficult, and I like a couple of reasons why, right? So when you're building an agency, you have a client, and you know that, okay, so Shane's my client, and I have to do what Shane needs me to do. When
Hmm.
you're building a product, you don't have a client, you have a cohort of customers. So a client will have a problem that I can solve. or a client will have requirements that I can fulfill, but a cohort of customers will have conversations with me through which I have to identify insights, and then I have
Yeah.
something on my own, show it to them, and then hope that I was correct all the time, and I will be paid only after their problems have been solved, right? I'd say I would say that scaling an agency is more difficult than scaling a product, but building a product is significantly more difficult than building an agency.
And when it comes to those insights that you've mentioned, those insights
Mhm.
are usually extracted from key points of data within the
Yeah,
product or within the
yeah.
business. What kind of data do you feel is most important to track when you're
Mhm.
building two questions, when you're building a product and then the second one, an agency?
So from a product standpoint, I would say your conversion rates across the funnel, right? So how many people are visiting the website and converting as sign up? How many people are signing up and then converting to paid? And then benchmarking that against the industry. So as an example, if you're running an inbound SaaS, so which is a small ticket SaaS, where you're using SEO and stuff like that, or performance marketing to get customers, and it's not a
Mm-hmm.
sales led motion. You typically, if you get 1,000 visitors, you should get 80 to 90 signups, and out of those 80 to 90 signups, you should get anywhere between 7 to 8 paid conversions who can then buy multiple seats or multiple credits depending on the pricing plan that you have. These are industry benchmarks. You should want to try to do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the game is primarily arriving at a pricing plan, making sure you have onboarding, activation, checklist, accelerating time to value within the product, and then at the same time making sure that the website communicates the message well enough such that the right ICP will sign up. And you will see a lot of products get a large amount of traffic, large amount of sign up, but then no conversions. And that's primarily
Yeah.
because the website was promising something that the product actually doesn't do. And you on the flip side, you'll also see that there are products who are getting amazing conversion rates, like they'd see 20-25% conversion rates without any salesperson or a demo or anything like that, just self-serve 20-25% conversion rates. And what that means is that marketing is not doing a good enough job of bringing new people in. And so you want to weekly measure these numbers. And if you have an opportunity to optimize, you want to optimize your bottom of the funnel first. So you fix the website to you fix the sign up to paid conversions first, and then you work your way upwards, right? So ads are the last things that get fixed. So the first thing to fix is your sign up to conversion, then your website to sign up, then your ad to website or SEO to website or whatever to website, and so on and so forth. So that's these are a couple of metrics from SaaS, and then the usual ones, right? So your MRR, net new MRR, churn, stuff like that, which are the top 5 metrics that you will see SEO people would have already written blogs about. So those things
Mm-hmm.
also you can measure. From an agency standpoint, I would say so calculating profitability per team member, profitability per project, profitability per client, and uh, profit and not profitability. So these three things for sure: profitability
Mm-hmm.
per project, per client, and per team member. And then I don't know whether this is a industry standard metric, but I call it effectiveness of non-billables. Right. So every agency will have people who are non-billables. So like as an example, if I'm running an agency, a salesperson, I'm a non-billable. I am not going to be paid for by the client. And
Yeah.
so, what is the total dollar turnover that the agency is doing per the number of non-billables that you have, right? If you have more non-billables, that essentially means that your agency is top heavy, which means that you
Mm-hmm.
you need to remove either your admin or your marketing or your sales or your decision makers. One of those people who are non-billables, you need to sort of shuffle that or relook at that. So these four metrics, right? Profit per client, per project, per team member, and then effectiveness of non-billables.
So I think the most interesting word that I'm writing down now that you've mentioned in that entire line was profitability.
Yeah.
And because companies are so focused on either valuations or just overall revenue, inflated numbers,
Yeah.
one of the major things that I saw very quickly was we ran our agency in our second year, we grew 444%, and
Oh, wow.
we charged so well. My whole thing was how many zeros can I add to a contract? Right?
Yeah.
If I could get to 3,000, then it was 30,000, then it was
Yeah.
300,000, and then before
Yeah.
I was able to add the sixth or seventh zero, a few things happened. But when it comes to profitability, um, companies don't focus too much on that. They focus on the wrong things. So,
Yeah.
how do you place the right amount of focus on profitability and still grow your company in a
Mhm.
streamlined manner?
So I'd say that this happens because the founders or the people who are in the decision making are not aligned with what is the purpose of the company, right? So the purpose of the company can be different at different stages of the organization. So
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So as an example, the societies or the housing boards that we live in are also companies. Universities are also companies, and so the purpose of a company is to maximize value for shareholders, right? If we take that in, and then we try and look at the startup or the agency that we are running, every day or every week you want to ask yourself, what is it that is going to maximize value for the shareholders of my organization? It could be me, it could be my investors, whoever
Mm-hmm.
it is. What will maximize the value for all the shareholders who are putting in, who are in the company? And um, so in very early stages it would be to prove the fact that you can build a product, and then the fact that product will be used by customers, and then the fact that uh, when the customers use the product they will pay for it, and so on and so forth. At those points of time, the thing that you can do to maximize value for the company is to invest into building products and invest into distribution. And those are investments, right? Not to look at them as costs. And then at some point of time, it will become growth, right? That, hey, we now we know that we've achieved product market fit. We need external capital to put gasoline on the small fire that we already have, and then grow. At that point of time, the thing that maximizes value is growth, right? It's not, again, even at that point of time, it may not be profitability. It may be month on month growth, or week on week growth, or year on year growth. But then at some point of time it should become profitability, and it's your call as the founder to know that at what point of time is profitability the thing that is going to maximize value for shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
Typically founders realize this a couple of years before they want to IPO. And so they know that public markets are going to value a profit making company significantly more than a loss making company that's trying to grow. And so at that point of time they will start to make decisions, and they'll start to take calls that since they've not thought about it up until that point of time, and they've just been invested in growth, and having large valuations being given by investors who are investing capital because of some wave that's happening, or
Mm-hmm.
interest rates are low, or whatever the case may be. They've not genuinely taken out the time and think about what are the changes that we need to make within the organization to be able to become profitable. And
Mm-hmm.
so what you will see often happen is that a couple of years before the company is about to go IPO, you might see some leadership team also moving out, because they now no longer align with the values and vision and the way that the decision making is happening,
Yeah.
because this was not already informed or shared, or even considered by the decision makers, right? So I'd say, and so all of this works for companies for whom the game is a zero sum game, right? So I'll give you an example within this as well. So as an example, for Clientjoy, we are a CRM. If you are using Clientjoy, that means that you're not using any other CRM, right? So this is a zero
Mm-hmm.
sum game where for me to win, HubSpot needs to lose, or Pipedrive needs to lose, right?
Yeah.
So for which is how most games are, right? So for me to win, someone else needs to lose. Agencies are not zero sum games. So agencies need, so it, there's no conversation around an agency's market, percentage of market that they have captured,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a company in its life cycle will end up working with multiple agencies, And even though like I'm engaged as an IT agency, there may be five other IT agencies that they have. They also don't want to have vendor concentration and so on and so forth. So running an agency is not a zero sum game. So there's no concept of capturing the market quickly, getting the people to get habituated to your agency services and stuff like that. Given that market capturing is not a game in the agency space, you want to think about profitability from day one, because that's the only way to maximize value for all the shareholders. So, and that's why you'll also see that there are not a lot of venture capital investments that happen in agencies. Um,
Yep.
in agencies, you will see private equity play happening at 300 people scale. You will never see a venture capital or an angel investor like investing $100,000 in a three people agency, right? Because it's
Yep.
not a market capture game. You need to be profitable from day minus one, right? So
Yeah.
any agency, any agency that comes and asks me, when should I think about profitability? I say yesterday. I mean, so there's no conversation. It should have already been done. Yeah.
It's very true. And then I guess I don't know if this is a question that can be answered or not. Then it's those agency founders. I've interviewed over 200 plus, and then in the
Hmm.
past 6 months we varied those interviews into different elements of the space. But um, a lot of founders that I do speak to with the agency space, they get to a point and they're just like, I'm comfortable with just as it
Yeah.
is, what we're doing. I don't
Yeah.
expect to go anything beyond this. I don't want to grow
Yeah.
anymore. We're at 5 to 10 million, and
Yeah.
that's what we're going to keep it at.
Yeah.
Some don't want to sell, some want to keep it for the rest of their lives. But
Yeah.
for those that want to change their valuation, and this is where we kind of incorporate profitability. We'll move on in a second,
Mhm.
but how do you change then that profitability from 2x valuation to being an agency that gets a 5x valuation, or whatever
Yeah.
the max valuation is? How do they make
Yeah.
that change, or what do they do or tweak in their business to get that increase?
So that would be essentially productizing as many services as possible, right? So there are things that I talk about a couple of things here, right? So the first is productizing services, and then the second is attaching yourself to an ecosystem that is also growing, right? So like an example of this, I mean, Salesforce is a very mature ecosystem. So it's
Mm-hmm.
growing at a pace at which it is growing. But think, so if I were a tech agency in 2004 or 2005, when Salesforce came out with the implementation partner ecosystem or something like that, and if I'd attached myself to them, today I would have like 2,000 people or 3,000 people who were just Salesforce implementation partners or Salesforce certified people. And so at that point of time, if I'm attaching my organization to another product or another ecosystem that has just been introduced, and you see that it is going to grow over a period of time, that is a huge bump, right? Because what that means is that you have advantages of being one of the first few partners of an ecosystem that is going to mature. They will also pass on the leads to you, so your customer acquisition costs are down. The more implementation you do, the better you end up becoming,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easier business to get, convert, and then just repeat, right? So that's the first thing that I would say. The second piece that I was talking about, which is productizing your services, is primarily, so one of the things that we are starting at Momentum 91 is also done in a week, right? So there are certain problems that founders have that they will spend months thinking about, but just because they don't have the right set of people, they'll not be able to execute.
Mm-hmm.
But given that we've done that multiple times over, we can do that very, very quickly, right?
Yeah.
So as an example, like I would see a founder complaining about their product performance or complaining about their AWS bills, um, uh, and because they get reminded about that every month. And so one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that we have is AWS audits done in a week, right? So we because we've done implementations, we'll be able to go in, look at it, make sure it's audited, make sure that it's optimized. It will reduce your bill by 20%, or you get the money back, right? So so things like that, right? So how can you, and these are extremely high margin businesses, because you essentially have to follow an SOP, and then that's it. So these are the two
Mm-hmm.
things that I would say, right? So attaching yourself to an ecosystem that's just started and is going to mature over the next 5-7 years or 3 years. And then second is how many of the services that you're offering can be productized, and then be packaged into a bundle and offered to clients.
Wow. Okay. So next, next on the list, which is where my most of my excitement comes. It's where most of my immaturity comes, and it's with
Okay.
the emergence and the evolution of AI. So
Uh-huh.
while we dive into this, just to kind of lay the foundation, what are your views on the evolution of AI in 2024? ChatGPT, obviously, what 12 months ago, has had its
Yeah.
biggest impact. Now, Facebook and Meta have now released advanced models on their side.
Yeah.
Elon Musk he has his opinion. There's a 6 month
Yeah.
pause on any more advanced development.
Yeah.
So, from your side, from Yash's side, what are your views on the evolution of AI this year?
So I'd say that it's um, so I tell you what. So nobody knows the future right now, um, and here are some thoughts and predictions that I have. The so I think we're going into a direction that's extremely exciting with a lot of possibilities that were not happening before. Secondly, and more importantly, I'm one of the other trends that I'm seeing is that all of us are knowledge workers, right? And there are things that I have to do, but I don't like to do. And as long as AI is able to release or relax my pain on those aspects, me plus AI is significantly better than just me.
Of
Whether I'm doing
course.
marketing, whether I'm doing sales, whether I'm doing designing, whether I'm doing anything. So I would say that AI will. So as an example, like AI will not replace Figma. However, AI will help me design faster, design better, design in a more informed way. And so
So
what we
I
would
know what
see
Figma
is
is. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt that, Yash. I know what Figma is, but for those that don't know who Figma is,
yeah.
explain how this platform works.
So Figma is basically the world's darling, the UI UX designer's darling for designing experiences of digital products. In certain cases, also physical spaces, but mostly digital products, right? So almost
Hmm.
like most of the things that you would see and experience, like the interfaces that you see, would be designed in Figma, right? But this
Okay.
can be taken like the analogy can be taken to anything, right? So think of it this way, right? So you'll never have AI build complete websites for you. There are builders right now that claim to do that, but you'll never have AI build complete websites for you. But you will be able to do it better with its assistance in Squarespace or Wix or whatever the case may be, right? So, so it's human plus AI, whether it is sales or marketing or design or whatever, or even uh, you know finishing tasks or things that I need to work on. I would say that the future is human plus agent, and so I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say, 2 years later, when I look at my ClickUp or Asana board, I have 5 team members and 7 agents who are part of a project, right? And then there are certain tasks that I'm assigning to an individual, and certain subtasks or tasks that I'm assigning to an agent. And we're all of us are collaboratively working together.
Hmm.
The other piece that I also believe is that the future. So I think these large tech companies have done a great job at building LLMs, which are generic use case.
Hmm.
And building on top of that, I think a lot of other mid-market companies will do phenomenally well building verticalized use cases or narrow AI for particular use cases, or specific use cases.
Hmm.
So that's another interesting opportunity as well. And the last piece is is that most of the LLMs that you have been trained on. I mean, almost all of the LLMs that you have, you hear about Llama and
Yeah.
ChatGPT or whatever. All of these have been trained on publicly available data, which is on the web. However, 85 to 90% of the data lies in enterprise servers, right? So it lies in my Outlook, it lies in my OneDrive, like my official Outlook or my official
Hmm.
Google Drive, right? Um, and that data has not been used to train the LLMs, right? And so there's another bigger opportunity for people who will be able to build products or solutions around training LLMs on an enterprise's data, right? So think of IBM, 100,000 employees, the amount of emails and documents and whatever images and videos and everything that they have. And if I am able to like create a llama for IBM, I'm sure they have their own team working on it,
Hmm.
uh, but think of a 50 people company, right? So they still have tons of data, and so an LLM that's trained on my organization's data is significantly more powerful than a generic LLM, right? And that's, I think in the next year or 2 years you'll see emergence of such types of solutions and products as well.
That sounds very interesting. I think the way I look at it is AI for me right now is my Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
And everything that I do now, it's and again, I get annoyed with people that say, it's going to replace this, or it's going to do this, or it's going to take my job. I look at it like this: if it's going to take your job, it's probably a rubbish job anyway, and you want it to actually take your job
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
frees you up to do other things. And then what
Yeah.
people don't realize is I was watching I don't know if you follow a guy called Patrick Bet David, but he did an hour and 25 webinar yesterday on the revolution of AI, and it showed the
Mhm.
changes from the 1800s, the first, second, third revolution, and how kind of things changed, what markets went down, what
Yeah.
opportunities were freed up, and then what AI is actually producing and giving us the power to do right now, which is where there's jobs that are so repetitive and mundane and they're
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
replaced. It's fine because you're still going to need a person that mans that AI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even where you have robots and Boston Dynamics is, I don't know if you've seen the video of Boston
I
Dynamics
see.
and these little
Yeah.
dogs that kind of
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
walking around and then they've got the
Yeah.
neck that can open a door and swivel.
Yeah.
Like all of this is absolute game changer for me. I find
Yeah.
it so fascinating.
Yeah.
But what I would really love when people watch my podcast and see from the guests and kind of their reinforced messages, AI is enabling us to do more with less, but it's
Mhm.
also allowing us to earn more, me be more
Yeah.
productive. And then where those jobs are being, like I said, taken away, the new opportunities that are going to be created can be much more fruitful,
Yeah.
right? Much
For
more
sure.
fruitful,
For
much
sure.
more exciting, much more fulfilling. And where I see the biggest opportunity is the fact that, again, there's these options or these considerations of one people companies. I don't think it's really possible. One people $1 billion companies. I think it's on its way there. But
Mhm.
just the amount of opportunity that is created from being able
Yeah.
to do things faster is absolutely game changing. So, last few
Yeah.
questions. What
And
what
and
what do you
so
think?
if I can
Yeah,
just
go on,
add
go jump on it.
uh, if I can just
Yeah.
add to the point that you're making, and I think this example will hit a home run
Mhm.
around people who are worried about losing jobs because of AI, right? So I'm not sure which year was this, but in I think 1970s, 80s, or something like that in New York, a company, General Electric, made a lift that was automatic. Right? So which is how we know lifts today. So I could walk into the lift, press my button, and it will take me there. And at that point of time in New York, uh, there was a protest that was organized by Liftman's Association. Right, there used to be an association of liftmen
Mhm.
who got together and protested that hey, if lifts become automatic, we will lose our jobs. And so just think about it that way, right? Today, do you want to be a lift person? Right, do you want to be the person who like sits in the lift and presses the button? No. So and all of those people started doing something else that was more exciting than pressing buttons within the lift, right? And
Of
I think
course.
that's what AI will do as well. So just wanted to share that as an example as
And look again, we could we could go on about it. It's just the simple concept of I think it's mere stupidity where people say these some of these things because again, would you want to be riding a horse to
well.
your cousin's house,
Correct.
or do you want to drive a Tesla, right, to
Yeah.
your cousin's house or whoever's
Yeah.
house? And then
Yeah.
just the evolution of Tesla being electric and that evolution going from I don't know if you've heard Elon say it, but there was one of his press releases not too long ago. He talked about Tesla was like the foundation of having an
Mhm.
electric car that can be fully operable by somebody else. The
Okay.
next iteration is Tesla will have their cars that you can buy But once you are in your house, you can turn a switch on your Tesla and then it can go out and taxi people in your
Yeah,
town. It can be used as a
yeah, yeah,
taxi and generate
yeah,
you money. So when it's sitting down,
yeah,
it's like, I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God, that's incredible. And then even I
yeah,
think webinars really are important and podcasts are so important because just yesterday
yeah.
alone, the production of cars in the 1800s, when Ford started their company, when it was manual labor, it was a couple of hundred. When industrial automation came in, it reached, I think it was in the millions, like 9.8 million cars produced in a matter of 12 months. And then
Uh-huh.
now you've got Elon and him developing his Teslas with
Yeah,
AI.
yeah,
And we're
yeah,
talking like hundreds of millions of cars. And I'm just like,
yeah,
wow, it's incredible. So when you
yeah,
think of the progression of industry, markets, just
yeah.
opportunity as a human population and what it's creating, it's tremendous. Last thing then on that too that was really interesting. There's a fund called the Renaissance Fund. I don't know if you know it, but it was
Okay.
built back in the 80s. And the Renaissance Fund was the only fund in capital markets and exchange traded funds. You were probably, maybe you might be able to familiarize yourself from the investment banking space. But this
Mhm.
fund started to use AI in the 80s and consistently
Uh-huh. Oh
outperformed
wow.
every single S&P 500, every
Ah.
index, every capital markets fund, every single investment banker, and Warren Buffett. So much so that if
Oh
you had
wow.
invested in Warren Buffett in X amount of years, let's just say $1, today it would be worth, I think, like 67. If you invested in that fund the same dollar, today it would be worth
Oh
$47,000.
wow. Oh wow.
I will send you. It's absolutely mind blowing. So two last questions because I think we're going over after the hour. How
Mhm.
should, from your experience, how should businesses be using AI specifically for sales and marketing in the next 6 months?
So I'd say from sales side of things, there are different use cases for AI. Essentially, so sales is three things. You have enablement, you have acceleration, you have intelligence. And so you want to use AI as part of intelligence for sure, which is where you get to understand a lot more about the prospect before you get on a call with them, or you
Mm-hmm,
get to know about them whether you want to like qualify, disqualify them, and stuff like that. So there's a use case for AI over there. As far as enablement and acceleration is concerned, so from an enablement standpoint, you can use AI to make cold calls. You can use them to write good email copies that can follow up. You can use AI to do all of those things as well. I think Mega is working in a fairly
mm-hmm,
similar direction also. And then from
mm-hmm.
an acceleration standpoint, I think you can use AI to draft your proposals, quotes, estimates, contracts, all of those things significantly faster. You can automatically create your deal rooms or your sales rooms using AI as well for similar customers. You can. The other piece is that you'll be able to also figure out what are the right testimonials, what are the right case studies to show to what type of customers. So all of those things can be done using AI
Mm-hmm.
from a sales standpoint. As far as marketing is concerned, I think we've already been using AI in marketing unknowingly because Meta was doing it when we ran ads, and Google was already
Yeah.
doing it when we ran ads, and all of
Mm-hmm.
those things as well. But AI has already been a part of a lot of people's marketing stack. Anyone, like if you spent $1 on Google, you've been using AI for a while. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so this is how I would say using it across sales and marketing.
Okay. And the last question, the last power question of the hour. What is your biggest concern with the use of AI, especially related to the customer experience?
Ha. So there are two things. One, from a customer experience standpoint, is that in using AI, the companies might overreach and try to automate as many things. I mean, so many things, such that
Mm-hmm.
it will, and it already is in certain cases, getting difficult for me to speak to someone if I'm facing a problem, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
customer. And so implementing chatbots and implementing IVR systems and using AI as a part of that, all of that is great and should be done. However,
Mm-hmm.
it should be done with the thought process that AI is a technology that is here not to improve your bottom lines, but it is here to get you to help your customers faster, right? So the goal is not to replace people with AI and like save on salaries. The goal is so that you can solve your customers problems faster. And so
Hmm.
design, and this is my challenge and concern, that companies will forget about the purpose of customer success or purpose of how to solve for customers when they start to implement AI, because they can go all out. So that's one side of things. That's one of my concerns, from a customer management or success standpoint. The other piece, just general, is that is that when I'm working with the new workforce, the people who are entering the organizations right now, it's very difficult to get them to watch anything and learn. And so uh, it, it's like one of my biggest concerns, because they think they have gotten the answer by writing in really poorly worded, grammatically incorrect prompt into ChatGPT. uh, they'll come to me. So I'll give you an example. I asked someone to create a social media calendar for Momentum 91. They just joined us in our social media team very early in their career, and I was not expecting them to do a good enough job as well, but it was just an assignment to see where they are at. They came back to me with 2 pages, right? And it's like 2 pages of strategy, and all of that was just Chat GPT, right? And I was like, hey, no, that's that's not. I mean, I can do Chat GPT. So so look at our competitors, try and understand what's working for them. Ask me, what does our brand stand for? Figure out whether we are doing it for brand awareness or for conversions. Look at what mistakes we've done in the past. Ask for access. Like, look through all of those things and then figure out what we should do, and then use AI in the process, right? So,
Yes.
but the whole thing cannot be just that. So I think that's a larger concern, actually. That the people who are entering the workforce, they think that this is work, and it's just done. So that's a little bit of a
And there's
challenge.
no, and I think just to add to that, it's there's a big concern that I've seen, and it's the lack of, or the diminished creativity that we will
Yeah,
see from the newer workforce. And just like you said, it's like there's no thought going into anything because they're very satisfied and get gratification off of instant scrolling. I've
yeah,
caught myself on TikTok and the
yeah,
instant infinite scroll, and then like you just said, the actual prompt, the prompting in using AI is a huge
yeah,
differentiator and game changer
yeah,
between person A and person B,
yeah,
because person
yeah,
B can say, yeah, just like you said, let's go do a social media task. But the person who can understand the problem, gather
yeah.
intelligence, and
Very
gather
good.
information, and then utilize those
Yeah,
findings into your prompt will be much different from the person who gets it
yeah,
and just acts on the actual prompt itself. So I think,
yeah.
look, there's a ton of things we can unpack even further, and we might have to do a second episode with you. But for those that want to be more like Yash, they want to learn from you. 2 questions: What's one consistent habit that you've adopted throughout your career that has
Mhm.
helped you remain, become, stay successful? What is that one habit?
So I'd say whatever you do, just do it with consistency, right? I'm not asking you to wake up at 5 a.m. If you wake up at 10 a.m., it's okay, but wake up at
Yep.
10 a.m. every day. Just do with consistency. And this is very arguable, but it is my firm belief that consistent mediocrity is significantly better than unpredictable brilliance, right? So I
Agreed.
want to make sure, yeah. So I want a person who writes maintainable code versus a person who sometimes write highly efficient code. So because as and when organizations grow and become better and larger, people who are consistent, they are more trustworthy. You are able to predict them, and that's how most brands work, right? You may, I mean, a very simple example of that is, you may have an opinion on McDonald's burger. You may like it, you may not like it, but you trust it. because it's consistent.
Always.
Yeah, always. You know that this is how a McChicken is going to taste like, and then it's the same thing always. And you know
Yeah.
that when you're walking in, right? So
Yeah.
just be consistent, be predictable, and that's like very very valuable.
Amazing, amazing. And last thing, then, where can people find you if they want to use Momentum as a service? Maybe
Mhm.
learn personally from you. What's the best place to find you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. My username is Yash Parallel, parallel as in parallel lines. I don't know why I chose that username. I was young and that was what it was. So I'll not go more into that. But so my username is Yash Parallel on LinkedIn, and momentum91.com is our website. You can always you click on book a call. That's my calendar. We'll get on a call.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Any last words?
No, I think this was great. Yeah, it was a fun conversation. I was a bit nervous at first, but I think this is good. Thank you everyone for watching.
Awesome. Until next time, Yash, we'll see you again. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye bye.